So as we were learning in the previous session, we were talking about the string functions, right? Those string functions I have listed back again for you with their purpose, why they will be used. So please do memorize this particular table that I have kept in front of you. Go through it one after the other, almost the same important functions we have seen. Please go through them. They are very helpful for you to identify and work around with strings. So now coming next to the topic is inheritance. This inheritance is actually a concept of object-oriented programming, which is going to make our coding very easy. What it does is it organizes the classes in a hierarchical manner wherein we will write what characters belong to what class separately. And if we wish any characteristics to be there within two or more classes, then we'll inherit the class which was already having that characteristics into another class. So in simple terms, if you have got any piece of data within a superclass and you want to use it into another class, then you will just inherit that superclass into your subclass and you will try to use that particular piece of code. Okay. Now, why do we have this particular thing? The reason is, suppose you have already written a piece of code in class A and you want to make use of it in class B also. There are two options for you. Either you can rewrite that piece of code in separately in class B altogether. Second option is you just link class A and class B, telling the compiler that if you need that functionality in class B, go and refer to class A, which is actually an inheritance for us. In the first case, suppose if it is a small piece of code, you will rewrite. If it is a very big piece of code, will you rewrite all together, all the logic? And sometimes it may not be even possible also for you to recollect what logic you have used in the first case. So you will not try to copy it, you will try to make a linkage which will actually replicate our human nature. We'll have our grandparents, and then ourselves. Like that, like a human ideology, like a natural ideology, we'll just think that, okay, that's a superclass, then it comes with a subclass, then it comes with a subclass, and the characteristics will be inherited one after the other. So it helps us in reducing the duplicacy and redundancy. We need not have multiple data stored onto our system and we need not have redundancy in our system. Okay. So this subclass is labeled with multiple words in different textbooks. Some will say subclass as a derived class, which is a new class which has been derived from the superclass, or they will say that this subclass is a child class. Sometimes they refer it to as extended class. For the superclass again, they may call it as a base class and they may also call it as a parent class or inherited class. All the word means the same. Okay. So I kept one example over here depicting what different types of inheritances are supported in Java. Can anyone remind me how many different types of inheritances were supported in C++? In case of our C++, how many different types of inheritances were supported?
6, sir.
6. Can you list it out?
Single, hierarchical, two-path, multi-path.
Okay. 4-hour. Kumar, hybrid, multiple, then multi. I don't know what is that. Yeah, correct. Benny have spelled it correctly now. Okay. So we have got, yes, multipath. Okay. So here in Java, there are not many different types. And Java is easier than C++. I used to always say it, right? How is it easier and cleaner than C++? Let us try to see. In case of our C++, because of multiple inheritance, we have to come across one more inheritance called as multi-path inheritance. Okay? Because of multiple inheritance, we have to come across another inheritance called as multi-path inheritance. And there was one more inheritance coming in between called as hybrid inheritance. Okay? Multiple inheritance means class A, class B, class C, and they are all inherited into class D. That means multiple classes getting inherited into one single class. That was multiple inheritance. It was hybrid inheritance, mixture of single or multi-level inheritance and multiple inheritance. It was giving us a concept of hybrid inheritance. What was multipath inheritance? Hierarchical inheritance plus multiple inheritance. It was giving hierarchical inheritance. Hybrid inheritance and multipath inheritance. So this multiple inheritance was creating two more type of inheritances for us. So Java says no need for multiple inheritance. There was one more problem with that. Let me show you with this particular example that I have kept here. What was the main problem for multiple inheritance? Suppose there is class A with a method called as message. There is another class B with the same name as that of message. These two are two separate classes, right? So I can have two methods coming with the same name. There is no problem. Now there is one class C and I am inheriting class A and B inside it. That means whatever attributes and properties are there for this class A as well as class B will get copied into class C. Correct? That is because of inheritance. Now, in the class C, I am creating an object of class C, simple, obj. And I am making a call to message, obj.message, thinking that these features will come into my class C. Now, what will be the message that this compiler will get linked up with? Can anyone list whether this MSG will be of class A or class B? What will be? Can anyone make a clarity for that? Which one will get executed? Yes, Neha, it's correct. Message belongs to both A and B. But I am trying to acquire both A and B into my C. And I am trying to make a call to message function using sys object. Which out of it will get executed? It cannot be both. It cannot be both. It will be either one of it. It should be either one of it. Kavya says A. Any partiality? Why not B? So here comes one more distinction. Our,
I have a doubt.
please.
Here in class A, there is a function method message. In class B also, can the same thing be used?
Why not? Class A is different and class B is different. This MSG is local to this class and this MSG is local to this particular class.
Okay.
Okay. So as a human nature, we will quickly try to decide whether to take A or B and we will fix on to one. As Kavya has fixed on to A, we will also fix on to any one of it. It's a human tendency because our mind has been created by our creator and it is very brilliantly created. We have the decision making capacity, but computer doesn't has it. As Neha is telling, it will give you an error telling that I don't know what to make a call. Which function to get executed, I don't know. Computer says I don't know what to do now. It gets struck up. This was the problem that was created by multiple inheritances. Because we are trying to inherit two classes inside one class, which is multiple inheritance, and there may be a chance that this type of issue may occur. Java says no need for having multiple inheritance. मेरे को एक क्लिक कर अपने एटीएम में से 2000 निकाल के लेके आते वहाँ पे 1516 वहाँ पे उनका नाम क्या है ललिता है क्या है कौन भेजे तुम्हारे कौन भेजे मेरे पास लीला 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 को 1000 देगा 1000 तुम्हारे पास है और एक चीज़ क्या है बोले तो जाते वक्त में एक पार्सल उमाशंकर सरस्वती देने का है तुम्हारे घर जाते हाँ मेरे पास से ले लो
आप नीचे आता था
मैं नीचे 5 बजे के आसपास आता
हाँ मैं इधर ही रहता
कॉल करो लेकिन यहाँ से कॉल
हूँ।
हाँ so Java says there is no need for multiple inheritance thereby the chance for getting hybrid inheritance is gone the chance for having multi path inheritance is also gone so now it's simple plain Java has got single inheritance multi-level inheritance and hierarchical inheritance that's all there is no more inheritances coming in between easy now let's try to see further in case of single inheritance what will happen is we will have one parent one child so whatever parent class is going to contain all those qualities will get inherited into the child class what I mean by inherited is in the child class using the child class object I can even call the parent class methods or variables if they are having access specifier as public if they are having proper access specifier we will learn about access specifier later if they are having a proper accessibility then even using the child class object I can access the parent class methods and variables clear so here I have demonstrated two programs for you just to make a clarity you can select any one as an example for your exam. I've kept one more example program which is meant for the circle program which you can work around and you can learn from it and it has got single inheritance involved in it okay so if you wish go through those programs. Now coming on for method overriding and hiding of variables. Method overriding is the concept wherein if we get back to that one just a minute in case of method overriding what was the concept was we have one method in the superclass and we have got the same method in the subclass also with the same name so what will happen is if I make a object of this particular class subclass and try to access object o dot it then it will access only the subclass docs 8 function okay but whereas as we learned in the inheritance that using the object of the subclass we can even invoke the methods of superclass then why only this eat is getting preference? Why is it only executing this one? Why not this one? To answer it, we need to learn which class object was created. The object was created of subclass, which is dog. So whosoever object was created, if that class is having that version of method, that particular class method will be given more priority than that of others. Suppose it is not present, then the subclass object will go and execute this it function of superclass. But suppose if it is present here also, then it will not execute the above one. This is one key point that you should remember. So always remember, local methods of the same object will be given more priority to get executed than the superclass methods. One key point. Second thing, here, suppose you have written a class, and in that class you have written lots of functions with lots of hard work. Would you like your class to inherited by someone else and just reuse your own written code? Will you allow them to just make a copy of that one and add whatever they wanted to add to it? You have written that code with a lot of efforts. Will you just make it to be copied by others? No, there should be some restriction, right? So what you will do is, if you don't want this function to be overridden, and there should be a warning to be given, then you will make this particular method as a final. That means no one can copy this particular method further. If they try to copy, it will become a error. It will not allow you for overriding. Similarly, suppose someone has written a method already and they have missed some parts in it. You want some more content to be added to that particular method. Now, you don't remember exactly whether the syntax is accurately matching or not, because both should be same, right? Even the parameter list as well as the return type as well as the name should be same. But suppose if you want everyone who is trying to make a copy of this function to follow that specific syntax only, and if they are not following that syntax, it should give an error message, then you have got one annotation to be attached. Annotation is a symbolic notation called as override. That annotation, if it is attached to this superclass function, then suppose if I make a mistake here, instead of eat, I write EATE. Then if these two names are not matching, it will give an error telling that you have not overridden it and you have misspelled it by using EATE. So please override the proper name. So there are two things that I'm speaking about. One thing is, you don't want your efforts to be just simply copied by others. For that reason, you will apply a keyword here called as final. The second is, you want those who want to copy it should always make accurate name specifications. And if you want that accuracy to be maintained, then you will write a keyword over here, one symbol here, one word here called as annotation, and that annotation word is @override. @override. Okay. So for that reason, I kept that slide here. So let us get back to that slide. @override is also known as annotation, and it was introduced in Java 1.5. This is also an important point to be noted, but not as important as its concept itself. And what it does is, it asks the compiler to check whether there is such a method in the superclass to be overridden or not. Okay. In the subclass definition, if you are making any mistake, then it will create an error for you. Okay, this helps greatly if you are misspelling the name of the method symbol. Do remember, we have got one predefined function toString, right? If I want to just misspell it by writing and string, it will be treated as a new method. It will not be treated as an error. Okay. So similar to this concept, there is one more thing called as hiding of variables. We will come to know about hiding of variables very soon. I will show you that particular slide. Now, we were discussing a lot about the objects in classes, right? So, in case of Java, there is one class called as system, and from system we have got two things. One is system out, another is system.in. And like that, we have got one class getting inherited into another, one class getting inherited into another. So whatever functionality was defined in the first class, it is being reused back into subclasses. So what is the first and foremost class that exists as the root class for all the objects? The root class that has been inherited by all the objects in the Java is object class. The root class which is inherited by all the objects is what? Object class. This is the name of the class itself. And it is called as root class. Okay. And from here, two subclasses will be emerging. One is multi-threading, another is garbage collection subclasses. Okay. So there is one keyword over here called as super. What this super keyword will do is, suppose consider this code. What this code is having is, it is having a parent class and a child class. In the parent class, there is a name as a variable. This name is a member variable of parent class. Now in the child class also, I have a name as a child class member variable. And in the function, I am writing name is equal to parent. And I am writing name equal to child. Now imagine there is no super word here. Imagine there is no super word. Forget about this particular part, super. I am writing name is equal to parent, right? That means which name will be given priority here? Can anyone mention in the chat box? If I don't mention super keyword, what will happen normally? The compiler will check, is there any name locally present in this child class or not? If it is present, it will try to assign the value to this local variable. So local variable name will be given a value as parent. But again, we are changing the local variable value as child. But in fact, what I wanted to do is, I wanted here, this name should refer to the parent and this name should refer to the child. So for that reason, if I'm trying to mention specifically that this variable name, which is common for both the classes, should be accessed from the parent class, then I will be using super.name. Then I will be mentioning a keyword called as super. So this super keyword will hide the local variable over here and it will try to assign the value to the parent class. Is it fine? Clear for everyone? Now, the same concept I have depicted here. You can superclass and subclass. I've put few more functions, few more programs here. If you are interested, you can go through these programs. Here I have explicitly overridden function annotation here, just to demonstrate those things. And why I have made this whole thing very clumsy by adding all the comments is, I wanted it to be self-explanatory for you when you are going through that particular code. So there is one more thing that we need to learn about classes and objects. Now suppose I have got multiple objects in my program and I forgot whose object was that particular OBJ. Was it of class A or class B or class C or class N? I forgot that thing. Now I want to check whose object is this OBJ actually. So for getting to know what is the type of that particular object, whose instance is that object, what class instance is that object, we have got one operator called as instance of. We have got an operator called as instance of. Don't think that operator will just be a symbolic notation. Operator may be a new, operator may be a delete, operator may be a instance of or size of also. All these will be considered as operators only. So suppose imagine there are multiple cylinder objects being created. CY1, C1 and C2 are there. Now you want to apply and get to know whose object is that one. Then you can check it with this particular way. C1 instance of circle. It will return true or false. If it is an instance, if C1 is an instance of circle, this operator will return true. Otherwise, it will return false. So that was the syntax. Then we are having abstract classes and abstract methods. I don't want to hurry up much in this case because interfaces are going to be started, and with the final one we will be closing. So tomorrow we will have this particular class. Tomorrow, inshallah, we will be closing our 4th unit, and some of the 5th unit topics have also been covered here. So we'll see how best we will finish up with our syllabus. Okay. So I just want to close this class now. If you have any doubts, you can raise it in your chat box. No doubts? Okay, then I am closing the class. Sir, all are asking regarding labs. Can you please clarify them in this class? Regarding labs, the thing is, since this programming is can be executed at your home systems also, we are not forcing you to come to our college into the lab. And in the class also, I am trying to show you how to execute it, and I am recording it and I am putting it back onto YouTube just to facilitate you how those executions will be done. Okay, so please do not get worried about labs. You have got RDBMS and IT lab, and don't bother about them much. Concentrate on the logic of the programs. Automatically, you will be able to pass the lab. Okay. Because of labs issues only, I am trying to incorporate, I'm trying to keep as many programs as possible within the slides itself. You can see that apart from theory, there are lots of programs being put it into the slides. That you are learning something good from those slides. Actually, what I used to do for other batches in your previous case was the slides were itself a part of the lab, and they used to go through those slides and try to practice those programs. Those programs have been kept back on the screens for you people. So do not worry about the lab. Just go through how those programs are going to work. You will automatically write the lab without any problem. Is it fine? I'm closing the class now. Thank you, everyone. See you tomorrow then.
Thank you, sir.